Goosebumps, the scariest series in children's literature. I've taken it upon myself to summarize every Goosebumps story ever told, in the hopes that we all come out knowing a bit more about the things that go bump in the night. Not just the stories, but their adaptations too. So if you're ready, viewer beware, you're in for a scare, as we dive into book number 5, Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. So, Curse of the Mummy's Tomb is the first book to be released in 1993, and here is the Jacobus cover. An original sketch for this cover originally gave the mummy normal eyeballs, but I prefer these glowing red ones. Pretty scary. Our tagline is, "What will wake the dead?" Maybe we'll find that out in the story, The back tagline is, "Something dead has been here." Well, that seems pretty obvious. I just want to point out that I love Jacobus's rendering of the stones behind the mummy. It's pretty well textured. The 2003 reprint zooms in the art and brightens it, to the detriment of some of that rendering I just mentioned. I do love the shade of teal used here on the cover, and the reddish-orange text is great for contrast. Our last standalone book here is the 2009 classic reprint. The mummy's active in this one. He's coming right for me! Those glowing eyes are still seen in this version, but Dorman opens up this mummy's nose and mouth for us to see those beautiful teeth. Our bonus features are back. They give some fun facts about hieroglyphs, mummification, and of course, the splat stats. Seems like the mummies in this book are going to be pretty strong, but not much else. They're even mentioned to be as slow as a grandma getting out of bed, but they still have a speed of 4. Interesting. Here's the Vanishing Collection again. When I was looking at my script, I realized I completely forgot to write this one in. If you want to learn more about this, check out either the last video, or I'll talk about this a bit more in the next one, where the cover for this is actually from. Ancient mythology has always been a favorite subject of mine, so let's wrap up this showcase and set our sights on the book summary. This is actually our first book not to have an episode attached to it. Somehow, though, the direct sequel, Return of the Mummy, does have one. This isn't the only book like that either, and I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about, but I'll keep that hidden until it comes up again. Very soon. For books with no adaptation, which will be the norm past Series 2000, I'll try to put a little bit more depth into the summary. I'll try to keep most of the filler out, though the amount of that depends on the book. So this book starts not in an ambiguously American suburb, but at the site of the Great Pyramid. Our main man here, Gabe, keeps complaining that he's thirsty, but his mom rudely replies that they came to look at the pyramids, not get a drink. What the hell? Dad's too interested in the history of the pyramids to care about Gabe either. Their family is Egyptian American. Gabe's grandparents moved to America in the 30s. The real star of the show seems to be Uncle Ben, Assad, the famous archaeologist. So famous, he was even in National Geographic. Apparently Uncle Ben is one of a myriad reasons the family went to Egypt for this Christmas season. Mom and Dad sell refrigerators, and apparently they have to sell them in a whole bunch of Egyptian cities. Cool? Some tourists arrive on camels and Gabe tells a horrible joke.
Do you know how to get down from a camel?
No, how?
You don't get down from a camel. You get down from a duck.
Mom wants Gabe to look at the camels, but he gets unreasonably angry. He says they're gross looking and smell like dirty gym socks. Shame on you, Gabe.
Was that the—
Gabe wishes he could go inside of the pyramid with Ben, but he isn't allowed. He had these childhood fantasies of adventuring into pyramids like Indiana Jones. He also mentions fighting ancient Egyptians risen from the dead, just like Indiana Jones. Way to disrespect your ancestors, kid. Our cliffhanger this time is a flash forward. Little did Gabe know his mom and dad would be gone, and he would be trapped in the pyramid forever. Maybe. So the family rides from Al-Jazaa back to Cairo. Now, I don't know why I did this to myself, but I looked up the root of this and it just doesn't make sense. Gabe mentions that they went along the Nile River and that it took an hour to reach Cairo. If this trip covered the whole distance from the pyramid in Al-Jazaa, aka Giza, to Cairo, this would only take 30 minutes. Let me tell you my secret theory on how this happened. The book released in 1993. Maybe the roads were different back then. Or the traffic is really bad. That aside, Gabe wants to play with his Game Boy, but Mom makes him look at the Nile. Who else gets to see the Nile on Christmas break? Add the Nile to the list of things Gabe hates.
I mean, when you get down to it, a river is a river.
Actually, Gabe does like one thing in Egypt. Coke. The classic kind. I'm a bit too young to remember this, but Coke used to release New Coke as a reformulation to beat Pepsi. Enough backlash happened they made Coca-Cola Classic, which was just old Coke with a new name. Well, that worked out, and New Coke was dead just a little bit after I was born. Anyway, the family makes it to the hotel, and all Gabe can watch in English is CNN. Boring. Mom and Dad get a phone call, and when that's over, they tell Gabe they have to leave for Alexandria now. Gabe can either go with them or stay at the hotel where Uncle Ben will pick him up in an hour. Gabe immediately chooses his uncle, but the catch is his cousin Sari is also in town. No kidding, Gabe literally says, "Barf!" Sari is also 12 years old, and is this book's relative that I hate so much for reasons only a kid could even care about, such as, she is smart, she is pretty, and she knows that she is. She is an inch taller than Gabe, and who could forget, she is able to get to the final level of Super Mario Land, and Gabe cannot. Despite already owning a Game Boy, the book says that Sari has a Super Nintendo and Gabe does not. This means they meant to say Super Mario World, and they messed up. R.L. Stine may be many things, but a gamer he is not. So the parents head out quickly and Gabe's left all alone in this foreign hotel. He tries to act tough, but with the sun setting, he's starting to get a little scared. With little to do, he clutches this mummified hand he's kept in his jean pocket this whole time. Like the plot to a classic gaming creepypasta, he bought it at a garage sale a while back. The kid who sold it to him called it a summoner, and said it can call evil spirits. He calls it his good luck charm, and pacing around the room with it, he's starting to freak out. He starts to hear something as the door creaks open, and a mummy comes into the room! The mummy, it's Uncle Ben. He and Sari laugh their asses off after that perfect scare, and Gabe tries to act like he didn't just have a heart attack. Well, the kids help get the gauze off of his body. Ben mentions that he's just so excited to go to the pyramids. Apparently, he's discovered an entirely new burial chamber. The group moves down to eat dinner and talk about it some more. Ben starts expositing some basic facts. The Great Pyramid of Khufu was built around 2500. It was the world's largest structure at one time. The area is around 13 acres. It was built as a royal burial palace. It was so enormous so that the burial chamber was kept hidden, and dozens of pathways were made to deter robbers. Objection! The most that was ever used to deter robbers in Khufu's pyramid were stone blocks that were lowered when the workers were done for the day. Take that! If we take a look at the internals of the Great Pyramid, we see the original entrance, the descending passage to the subterranean chamber, and the ascending passage leading to the Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, and the King's Chamber. While it has been stated that some tombs in the Valley of Kings had false passages to deter visitors, nothing of the sort was used in Khufu's pyramid. Furthermore, Ben Hassad, you claim that you've discovered a hidden chamber that may lead to the real burial chamber of Khufu himself. If you were a real archaeologist, you'd know that the King's Chamber already holds Khufu's stone sarcophagus. Because of its creation in the early 4th dynasty, decorations and inscriptions are not found, and the tomb itself was already looted only a few hundred years later. That body's been gone for ages and you know it! So let's reveal the real truth. This is all just a kid's book. It doesn't have to be realistic. So the group goes to sleep and heads to the pyramids in the morning. With his permit, Ben gets them some exclusive parking. Gabe imagines all of the amazing mummies and treasure they might find in there, but Sari brings him down to tell him his shoe isn't tied. If that doesn't come back again in the story, I'll be surprised. So Ben makes sure they stick together lest they get lost in this supposed labyrinth of corridors. One of his workers says that discovering this new tunnel has activated an ancient curse. Will that be true? I guess we'll find out. Armed with some trusty halogen flashlights, the trek into the pyramid begins. To get down to the new tunnel, they need to descend a shoddy rope ladder. Uncle Ben goes first so he can shine a light for the kids, and Gabe is up next. Happy that Sari is as scared as he is, he acts cocky on the way down, but when the rope is too tough for his dainty little hands, he falls down! Sari quickly manages to grab Gabe's hands, and he's grateful, for about 2 seconds. Then he's jealous that Sari gets to be the cool one, again. There are a few side tunnels down here, but Ben and Sari already explored one yesterday. Ben tells these really funny mummy jokes, such as, why didn't the mummy have any hobbies? He was too wrapped up in his work.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I am never reading one of those again. Gabe already has to stop to tie his shoe again, cementing in my mind that this is Chekhov's shoelace. The group heads through a few more passageways, which change in incline and size all the time. This is actually accurate. If you've ever seen the inside of the pyramid or been lucky enough to visit, it really is that stressful. The passageway up to the Grand Gallery is only about 4 feet tall, and you practically need to crawl into the King's Chamber. I'm way too big for this stuff, man. That would stress me out. I'm sure the kids are fine, though. Well, it's time to meet the team. 4 workers, 2 men, 2 women, and then another guy. He's Egyptian, and his name is Ahmed, from the university. He's just gonna observe the team and is always quiet except for when he's mentioning curses. 3 more workers show up here with digging equipment, and if any of them actually end up being important, I'll put their names here. Despite what Uncle Ben said about sticking together, Sari wants to go exploring. Ben's too absorbed in his work to notice, and they have a few hours to waste. Gabe protests, but like every wimpy Goosebumps kid, enough pressure combined with being called a chicken does a good job of moving the plot forward. Sari says that all the tunnels lead back to the main chamber, so it's impossible to get lost. As they move, Sari gets far ahead of Gabe, and of course, that shoe comes untied again. When that's over with, Gabe can't find her, and when he calls her name, there's no answer. Gabe knows exactly what's going on. Sari's just messing with him. He thinks back to a few years ago. Sari laughed at him when he tripped, so he enacted an evil revenge plot to bring her to a haunted house. Leading the way, they got separated, and Sari never answered when Gabe called for her name. He ran home crying in the rain, horrified that he left Sari there. But actually, Sari was already home, perfectly dry and eating some cake. Yeah, that's pretty messed up, huh? Despite that totally tragic backstory, you can tell Gabe does still care for her. Maybe she really did get hurt. Gabe scrambles forward until he ends up bumping into a mummy case. It's beautifully painted with a woman's face on it. But then it starts to move. The lid shifts ever so slowly until two eyes stare right at Gabe. Gabe lets out a scream before it's revealed that Sari was the one in the coffin. She's rubbing the embarrassment of Gabe's face, laughing her ass off, and with nothing to throw at her, Gabe just stews in anger. He vows a silent revenge, but then they both hear footsteps in the corridor. Uncle Ben storms in, and he is pissed. Apparently there are hundreds, maybe thousands of passageways in here, and it definitely is possible to get lost. So no more pyramid for today. As if Gabe's day wasn't already ruined enough, Ben and Sari are together out of earshot where they're assumedly laughing about how Sari scared Gabe. I really feel bad for this poor kid. We cut back to the hotel the next morning, and Ben has some Cairo museum business today, so the kids can come with to look around. Gabe notices a Frosted Flakes box with some Arabic written on it. He really wants to take it home, but doesn't bother for fear of getting made fun of. That really sucks. It's the perfect type of thing I'd hoard in my room somewhere. Ben gets a phone call and the plans change. Two of his workers contracted a mysterious illness, so he needs to see them at the hospital. That means these two little rays of sunshine get to stay in the hotel for the next hour. What else to do but immediately disobey Uncle Ben again? Sari teases Gabe, but when he takes charge and suggests going to the museum, she's a bit hesitant. Gabe leaves a note just in case and they both head off. It's only 2 blocks away. What's the worst that can happen? Gabe has a grand old time staring at people on the way there, noticing that a lot of people here wear different clothes than back home. Crazy. The museum is quiet, a great rest from all the constant honking from the cars on the street. They head towards the mummy room, but I'm confused by the first thing they see. They mention a giant statue of a dog-headed lion that guards tombs. The only thing that I could think of or even find with an appearance like that is a Shisa statue, but that's from Okinawa. Well, anyway, they go and look at the nearest mummy in the room. Sari makes some jokes about how their ancestors were so tiny, they must have never worked out. Gabe starts describing the gruesome techniques used to remove organs from the body, and it starts to make Sari sick. This is amazing, something Gabe can finally use to enact revenge. Before he can make her puke all over the floor, though, Ahmed appears in the room. He looks angry and starts advancing towards the kids. A wild goose chase begins as Ahmed keeps yelling at them to come back, but eventually, the kids reach a dead end. They're cornered. What could Ahmed possibly say?
I'd like to buy all your chocolate.
Nah, I'm kidding. He actually has a message from Ben. Ahmed's confused why the hell the kids ran away, and they just blame each other until Ahmed gives up trying. Ben's already back from the hospital, and Ahmed was sent to pick the kids up. They all head outside and realize they aren't going in the right direction. Ahmed says he's taking them to his car instead. The hotel's only 2 blocks away, though. This is starting to feel uncomfortable. They make it to the car and get used to the burning hot leather seats before realizing they aren't driving to the hotel either. Gabe realizes the same thing we all do. They're getting kidnapped. With some quick thinking, Gabe crafts a plan. At the next stop, they're both going to fling the doors open and run. Surprisingly, it works. A poor kidnapping job, I must say. They run for their lives until they're confident that Ahmed isn't following. But now they have a new problem. They're completely lost. Gabe wants to cry, but he realizes this is his chance. Time to finally be brave and get ahead of Sari for once. Even though nobody around here probably speaks English, he has the smart idea to hail a nearby taxi. When they get inside, he asks for the Cairo Center Hotel, but the taxi driver just laughs at him. Sari immediately smells a trap. The driver must be working for Ahmed. They gotta run! Sari yells at Gabe to run, but the driver points out of the window and laughs. The hotel's just across the street. Convenient. They both go back to the room and notice Ben isn't there at all. That was a lie too. Ben does show up pretty quickly and mentions that his workers are not doing well. They're in some sort of shock and can't speak. Sari blurts out what happened with Ahmed and Ben is stunned. He can't believe a guy with such amazing credentials could do that. Ben gave his workers the day off, but he needs to go to the pyramids to figure out what happened. He wants the kids to stay at the hotel, but Ahmed might come back, so they need to come along. But no running off this time. The mood is set as the clouds start forming and the group heads to the pyramid. Ben gives both the kids beepers to alert him if they ever need to, but obviously they won't ever need to use them, right? Armed with those and a few flashlights, they descend into the pyramid again, but guess what? That damn shoelace is untied again. Just like before, Ben and Sari are too busy talking to each other to hear Gabe, and he's all alone. Gabe walks forward with a conflicted mind. He bets they're just playing a joke on him again. No, that can't be true. Ben's too serious today. So, should he push the beeper? No, that would make Sari laugh at him for needing help so early. Eventually, Gabe reaches a fork in the tunnel, and right now, make your pick in the comments below. Will he go left or right? Ready? 3, 2, it was the right path. If you got that right, you gotta like the video. And if you didn't, you do it anyway. Shameless self-promotion will get you everywhere in this world. Gabe starts to hear a small noise which gets louder the further he goes, kind of like a crack. He decides to say, screw it, I'm way too scared to not push this beeper. But as he reaches towards it, the cracking gets louder. It's the floor right below him. The floor collapses and Gabe falls into the darkness. God, imagine visiting the pyramids and it just happens to be the one day in the past 4,000 years when shit starts to turn sour. Now that is scary. Luckily, Gabe's still alive and without any broken bones, but he got rocked by that fall. The flashlight is still usable, and when he raises it up, he gasps, a mummy, standing against the far wall. For once, Gabe notices something off with this pyramid. Mummies aren't supposed to be standing up like that. He needs to calm himself down, but man, this place is nasty. The air is stale and smells horrible. I have no idea what a mummy would smell like, but the air down here cannot be good for your health. Looking around more, it's like Gabe fell right into the Egyptian section of Spirit Halloween. At least 24 mummies, claws, tools, canopic jars, the whole works. Gabe has had it. He needs out. He reaches for the beeper, but it's smashed. He's all alone. Gabe starts screaming for help with no luck. He begins freaking out, thinking that the mummies are moving, and steps on something which skitters away. Things keep brushing against his legs, so when he finally looks with his flashlight, he notices he's stepped into a nest of scorpions. Faced with all these possibly deadly creatures, Gabe trips, but someone grabs his shoulder from behind. Can't go a Goosebumps book without a shoulder grab, can we? It's a mummy! Just kidding. It's Sorry. She got separated from Ben too somehow. Both of them argue endlessly about whose fault it is all this happened, and Sorry says that Ben is pissed. The argument ends for now as Gabe shows Sorry what he found in this chamber. Ben won't be angry when he sees this, and Gabe will be famous for discovering it. Gabe keeps telling Sorry to use her beeper, but she ignores him. When he makes a grab at it, she finally lets up. They wait around until they hear footsteps, but the excitement turns to horror when it's not Ben, but Ahmed. Time for the exposition dump. Ahmed says that he tried to warn Ben about the curse, which must be carried out. This room is the preparation chamber of Priestess Kala, and the kids have defiled it. Ahmed scared those 2 workers too. Some kind of demonstration of what it would be like to boil alive in a nearby tar pit. Kala decreed over 4,000 years ago that her ancestors must always protect the chamber, and Ahmed is one of them. He scared the workers and kidnapped the kids to try and stop Ben from working here, but it didn't work. And now he must enact the curse. How does he do that? Well, all those mummies standing up on the walls, they were defilers who have been mummified alive. I'm glad the priestess doesn't treat filling her chamber with dead criminals as being violated. What a double standard. Ignoring their protest, Ahmed advances towards the kids, dagger in hand. The kids shuffle around the room trying to find a way to escape. Suddenly, a rope ladder descends from the ceiling and Uncle Ben quickly comes down. He learns the truth from Ahmed himself and keeps the kids behind him as he walks towards Ahmed. The room is tense as Ben does his best Chris Pratt impression to calm Ahmed down. He tries to tell Ahmed that, as scientist to scientist, they can move past this ancient curse business and talk. Yeah, no. Ahmed quickly raises his torch and right on Ben's head. Ben's knocked out cold and Ahmed tosses his torch into the tar pit where it begins to bubble. Sorry wants to fight him, but Gabe holds her back. Good idea, too. Ahmed's pure muscle. He heaves Uncle Ben's body into a sarcophagus and closes it. He then demands that the kids get into their own designated coffin together. They try not to, but Ahmed starts getting real angry. The kids reluctantly climb into the coffin as Ahmed closes the lid. This is definitely one of the most actually terrifying things in Goosebumps so far. Stuffed together in a closed coffin with the smell of death and bugs crawling around, either eventually suffocating or being boiled alive in tar. Pretty messed up stuff. They both hear a groaning sound. A mummy? Something's in the coffin with them. It's not a mummy, or a big bug. It's Uncle Ben? But how? Well, apparently, a lot of Egyptians put escape hatches into their mummy cases. I can't find any evidence on the internet of this ever happening, but yes, that's how Ben got in here. Somehow, Ahmed's been so focused on the curse that he just forgot about the hatches. Speaking of Ahmed, he's not currently in the room. No clue why, but it gives him the perfect moment to sneak out. They start hurrying towards the tunnel. That shoelace is untied again, but Gabe isn't bothering with it now. They make pretty good progress until Ahmed reappears with a new torch. He changes his mind. They won't be mummified. Oh, what a relief. They will be boiled in the tar pit! Oh no! He pushes them back towards the tar pit, and just moments before being forced to jump in, Gabe pulls out the summoner, that little mummy hand from earlier. He doesn't know why, but he holds the thing high up above his head, and well, nothing happens. Ahmed can't believe it. He starts speaking ancient Egyptian and then says, "The hand of the priestess." He's terrified as something unbelievable happens. The mummies come to life. Ahmed tries to throw his torch at one, but even covered in flames, they don't stop advancing. The flaming mummy uses its ancient strength to lift Ahmed by his throat. and the other mummies help carry him over the tar pit. Gabe closes his eyes. While I'm expecting a boiling tar choke slam, the disappointment is real when Gabe opens his eyes and Ahmed is stumbling his way out of the tunnel. After that short victory, the mummies return back to their places and stop moving. Saving the day, Sari actually is at least a little bit nicer to Gabe now. They have a big family dinner and a big breakfast the next morning. Gabe keeps playing with the summoner and messes around by chanting to the summoner to let the spirits come to him. A knock at the door silences the whole room. Two shadowy figures appear in the doorway. It's Mom and Dad! Wow, I really enjoyed that book. But really, what was with that ending? A ton of questions. Was Ahmed even related to the priestess, or just crazy? Maybe the summoner just supersedes his ancestry and protects whoever owns it. What's the deal with the summoner anyway? He got that at a garage sale. Who just happens to have an ancient Egyptian artifact at a yard sale? Will the sequel answer any of this? Not sure. Now, I mentioned that this book does not have an episode adaptation, but it does have a short comic. FBX Magazine, a British boys magazine in the 90s, had a series of small Goosebumps adaptations. Thank you to the Goosebumps wiki, because it's nearly impossible to find copies of this magazine online. Well, one of the adaptations was Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. It's incredibly brief, so a lot is cut. It starts right at the second visit to the pyramid, but any of the events from the first time or Ahmed must have not happened. The main difference here is that instead of running away, Ahmed gets thrown into some random pit by the mummies. Not even the tar pit from the actual book, just some random pit to hell, I guess. Like I said, mythology is a big thing for me, so I liked having the opportunity to just look up some random facts about the pyramid. Just off the top of my head, there's going to be like 10 more mummy books in Goosebumps. I mean, the one that just released last year was a mummy book. Are kids really that scared of mummies? Do schools even teach stuff about the pyramids anymore? Oh man. Okay, I forgot to say something in my recording of this, but where the hell are the mummies? There's a mummy on the cover. The thing's called The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. But where the hell are they? In fact, let me just check real quick when the mummies actually show up in this book. Page 127. You know what that means? There are 5 more pages left in the book. I even harped on Monster Blood for not having the Monster Blood come to life for the last 20 pages or so. I'll probably just slot this in at the end of the intermission, so I'm sure I mentioned that there's like 10 more mummy books. You know, more mummy goodness for everybody. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that story. Did you learn anything new? I plan on releasing these every 2 weeks, so if you're as excited for the next one as I am, please subscribe to keep up to date. Have a beautiful day, everyone, and prepare yourself for the next book. Let's get invisible!